Understanding the mind of a teenager is often like peering into a dense fog. There is movement, energy, and life, but it is veiled in shadows and half-revealed emotions. Many fathers see rebellious acts, mood swings, or sudden withdrawal as mere defiance, laziness, or indifference. But beneath these surface behaviors lies a profound, often invisible struggle. Teenagers navigate an intense landscape of change, not just physical, but deeply psychological and existential. They are learning who they are, what they believe, and how they fit into a world that seems both vast and threatening. According to Irvin Yalom, existential concerns, freedom, isolation, meaning, and mortality do not vanish with age. Adolescence is, in fact, the first time many people encounter these fears consciously, though they may not have the vocabulary to articulate them. Yalom observes in existential psychotherapy that facing these anxieties directly, even in subtle forms, is crucial for growth. For teenagers, much of this confrontation happens silently, in ways that are invisible to the adult eye. As a father, the challenge is not simply correcting behavior or enforcing rules. It is recognizing that what appears as opposition often masks a deeper emotional reality. A teen's irritability may conceal fear of inadequacy. A sudden outburst may stem from feelings of existential dread, and silence may be a protective mechanism against vulnerability. These experiences are not anomalies. They are essential components of human development. In the words of Yalom, the greatest gift you can give another person is the insight to recognize and confront the reality of existence, not the fantasy of comfort. Fathers who understand this are better equipped to approach their children with empathy rather than frustration, curiosity rather than judgment. Other psychodynamic perspectives, particularly from classic psychoanalysts such as Anna Freud and Erik Erikson, complement this understanding. Erikson famously described adolescence as the stage of identity versus role confusion. In this period, teens experiment with different roles, ideologies, and behaviors, trying to understand who they are. When fathers dismiss or punish these experiments without guidance, they risk alienating their children and inadvertently intensifying the very anxieties they hope to alleviate. Fathers who pause to observe and understand the invisible struggles within their teenagers can transform moments of tension into opportunities for connection and growth. Adolescents are also grappling with an emerging awareness of mortality and impermanence, often in ways that are subtle yet profound. Yalom discusses how even a casual reflection on death can awaken existential questioning that colors relationships, decision-making, and self-perception. A teenager who appears reckless may be testing boundaries to experience life fully, a subconscious response to the awareness that time is finite. Recognizing this is crucial for fathers. These behaviors are not always signs of carelessness, but expressions of a mind wrestling with reality in real time. Fathers who understand this context are less likely to react with anger and more likely to offer guidance rooted in understanding rather than control. The invisible struggles are also deeply connected to the development of emotional regulation. Adolescents experience emotions in a heightened state. Fear, anger, joy, and sadness are intensified and often overwhelming. Psychologists note that the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for executive function, decision-making, and impulse control, is still developing, meaning teenagers feel their emotions before they can fully reason through them. Yalom's emphasis on awareness as a therapeutic tool applies here, encouraging teens to acknowledge and name their emotional experiences fosters self-understanding and emotional resilience. A father's role, then, is not to suppress or fix these emotions, but to provide a safe space where they can be explored and integrated. Finally, understanding the teenage mind requires humility and patience. The struggles are invisible precisely because they are internal, layered, and often contradictory. Teens may oscillate between craving independence and seeking comfort, between expressing disdain and longing for connection. Yalom emphasizes the importance of presence in these moments. The mere act of bearing witness to another's suffering without judgment is transformative. Fathers who commit to this approach are not only helping their children navigate adolescence, they are cultivating a foundation for lifelong psychological health, teaching empathy, self-reflection, and authenticity. In conclusion, the teenage mind is a landscape rich with invisible struggles, shaped by existential concerns, developmental transitions, and emotional intensity. Fathers who approach this terrain with curiosity, patience, and empathy can bridge the gap between misunderstanding and connection, transforming adolescence from a battleground into a shared journey of discovery. Recognizing the hidden struggles is not a one-time revelation, but an ongoing process, requiring presence, listening, and courage. As Yalom reminds us in The Gift of Therapy, being present with another's pain, even when it is uncomfortable, is the most potent catalyst for growth. Fathers who embrace this truth can witness their teenagers not as problems to solve, but as minds in formation, capable of profound insight, resilience, and transformation. Communication with a teenager is rarely straightforward. Fathers often assume that meaningful dialogue relies on spoken words alone, yet much of what a teen is expressing happens in silence, gestures, or fleeting expressions that pass unnoticed. Teenagers are navigating an emotional and psychological landscape that they themselves may not fully comprehend, making verbal communication challenging. Irvin Yalom, in The Gift of Therapy, emphasizes the power of attending to the unspoken, the pauses, the hesitations, and the subtle cues that reveal the inner world of a patient. The same principle applies to parenting. What a teenager does not say often communicates more than what is spoken. Consider a teen who withdraws from family dinners, avoids eye contact, or spends hours isolated in their room. To an untrained observer, these actions might appear as defiance, laziness, or indifference. In reality, these are signals of emotional processing, social anxiety, or existential questioning. Teens may feel misunderstood, unheard, or overwhelmed, and silence becomes a protective mechanism. Fathers who overlook these signals risk missing the opportunity to connect, support, and guide. Recognizing the silent language of teenagers requires mindfulness, patience, and empathy, a conscious effort to observe patterns, moods, and behaviors without judgment. Beyond physical gestures, emotional tone and behavioral patterns are rich sources of communication. A sudden outburst of anger may not be about the immediate situation, but a reflection of cumulative stress, insecurity, or existential anxiety. Yalom notes that in therapy, patients often express truths indirectly through behavior or storytelling rather than direct statements. Similarly, a teen may communicate fear, confusion, or longing through sarcasm, withdrawal, or seemingly irrational reactions. Fathers who learn to listen beyond words can decode these signals, turning potential conflict into understanding. This requires resisting the urge to correct or punish, and instead creating space for the teen to feel seen and understood. Another layer of communication involves acknowledging the adolescent's need for autonomy while remaining present. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott's concept of the holding environment is relevant here. Just as a secure therapeutic setting allows patients to explore their inner world safely, a father's consistent presence offers a teenager the freedom to express thoughts and feelings without fear of rejection. By maintaining this secure emotional base, fathers enable their teens to articulate themselves more openly, even when words are incomplete or contradictory. Active observation also helps fathers recognize subtle emotional shifts. Changes in sleep patterns, appetite, or social engagement are often silent indicators of internal struggle. By tracking these patterns and responding with curiosity rather than criticism, fathers validate the teen's experience, fostering trust and openness. Yalom's therapeutic wisdom underscores this approach. Attention and empathy, even when nonverbal, can be profoundly transformative. A father who notices and responds thoughtfully to these signals communicates care, understanding, and emotional attunement. It is important to remember that communication is a two-way street. Teens learn to express themselves authentically when they feel heard, not judged. Fathers who model reflective listening, acknowledging emotions, summarizing concerns, and validating experiences, teach essential skills for lifelong interpersonal relationships. These techniques are not manipulative. They are grounded in genuine curiosity and empathy. Over time, this approach reduces misunderstandings, deepens connection, and empowers teens to navigate the complex social and emotional terrain of adolescence. Finally, the silent signals often reveal existential concerns that are difficult to articulate. Teens wrestle with questions of identity, mortality, and meaning, sometimes subconsciously expressing these struggles through behavior rather than words. Yalom emphasizes that bringing awareness to these unspoken fears is essential for growth. Fathers who attune to these hidden messages can provide guidance without imposing, helping their teens integrate understanding and resilience. They become witnesses to the inner journey, not controllers of it, facilitating the transition from confusion to self-awareness. In conclusion, communication with teenagers extends far beyond spoken language. The silent signals they send, through behavior, tone, and presence, carry essential information about their emotional and existential state. Fathers who develop the skill of observing, interpreting, and responding with empathy can transform moments of tension into opportunities for connection, trust, and growth. As Yalom reminds us, being present and attentive to the unspoken is a powerful catalyst for change. Fathers who embrace this approach not only understand their teenagers more deeply, but also foster a relationship grounded in mutual respect, empathy, and psychological insight, laying the foundation for a fuller, more authentic connection. Adolescence is a time of intense self-discovery, and with it comes a natural tension between the desire for independence and the residual need for parental guidance. Teenagers often express this tension through rebellion, resisting rules, challenging authority, or testing boundaries. To many fathers, these behaviors appear defiant, disrespectful, or even dangerous. Yet beneath the surface, rebellion is rarely about disobedience. It is an essential expression of the search for identity, a signal that the adolescent is grappling with fundamental existential questions about who they are, what they believe, and where they belong in the world. Irvin Yalom, in Existential Psychotherapy, underscores that confronting freedom and the responsibility it entails is a source of both anxiety and growth. For teenagers, acts of rebellion are a raw, sometimes chaotic rehearsal of autonomy. The adolescent quest for identity is deeply intertwined with fear. Erik Erikson described this stage as identity versus role confusion, highlighting that teens experiment with various roles, belief systems, and social personas to understand themselves. These experiments often appear erratic or contradictory, but they are essential attempts to reconcile internal desires with external expectations. Fathers who misinterpret these behaviors as mere opposition risk escalating conflict, while those who recognize the underlying search for meaning can provide guidance that respects autonomy without withdrawing support. Fear of failure, social exclusion, or existential uncertainty fuels much of the rebellion. Yalom emphasizes that awareness of death and the limits of time intensifies the adolescent need to define oneself. This awareness manifests subtly. A teenager might reject parental advice, take risks, or adopt provocative stances, all as a means of asserting agency and testing the boundaries of existence. Rebellion also reflects the struggle with social identity. Teenagers are acutely aware of peer perception and societal norms, which can create tension between authenticity and conformity. Fathers who respond with rigidity or criticism risk pushing teens towards secrecy, further complicating the communication gap. Psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott's concept of the true self versus the false self is relevant here. Teenagers navigate the challenge of expressing their authentic selves while managing the expectations of family, friends, and culture. Acts of defiance often represent an attempt to reconcile these conflicting pressures, to claim an identity that feels genuine even if it clashes with external authority. Fathers who understand this dynamic can frame rebellion not as failure, but as an opportunity for dialogue, reflection, and growth. Another critical dimension of rebellion is emotional regulation. Adolescents experience emotions with amplified intensity. Anger, frustration, and fear can feel overwhelming and uncontrollable. Yalom's work reminds us that existential anxiety and emotional turbulence are not signs of pathology. They are fundamental aspects of human development. Fathers who respond with calm, curiosity, and empathy model the capacity to tolerate discomfort and navigate intense feelings. By doing so, they teach teens that emotional intensity is manageable and that expressing emotions authentically does not jeopardize relationships or self-respect. The interplay between fear and identity formation also illuminates why teenagers sometimes make seemingly irrational decisions. Risk-taking, experimentation, or abrupt shifts in behavior often serve as a rehearsal for independence, an exploration of limits, and a negotiation with existential concerns. Fathers who attempt to control or prevent these behaviors entirely may inadvertently reinforce anxiety and resistance. Yalom highlights that facing existential challenges directly, acknowledging fear without avoidance, is essential for psychological growth. By offering guidance rather than control, fathers can help teens navigate risks safely while maintaining the space for self-discovery. Ultimately, understanding fear and rebellion as integral to identity formation reshapes the father's role. Rather than viewing adolescence as a battleground, fathers can approach it as a shared journey of exploration and understanding. By recognizing the deep existential undercurrents behind rebellious behavior, fathers cultivate empathy, patience, and insight, creating a relational environment that supports authentic growth. As Yalom writes, the courage to be is the willingness to confront the isolation, freedom, and mortality inherent in existence. Fathers who embody this courage alongside their teenagers provide a model for facing life's uncertainties while fostering autonomy and resilience. In conclusion, rebellion is not a sign of failure, but a manifestation of the adolescent quest for identity, fueled by fear and existential questioning. Fathers who understand this dynamic, who see beyond surface behavior to the underlying struggles, can transform conflict into connection, anxiety into growth, and defiance into a meaningful exploration of self. By embracing patience, empathy, and presence, fathers guide their teenagers through the turbulent waters of adolescence, helping them emerge with a stronger sense of self, resilience, and the capacity for thoughtful, authentic engagement with the world. Fathers often approach adolescence with a toolbox of rewards and punishments, believing that behavior can be guided solely through consequences. While rules and structure are necessary, relying exclusively on this approach overlooks the deeper, internal development that defines emotional resilience. Adolescence is a period of profound psychological growth where teens learn to navigate emotions, manage stress, and confront the existential realities of life. Emotional resilience is not built through coercion or incentives alone. It emerges from understanding, reflection, and the ability to integrate experiences into a coherent sense of self. Irvin Yalom, in Existential psychotherapy, repeatedly emphasizes that growth arises from facing life's inherent anxieties rather than avoiding or suppressing them. For teenagers, resilience is forged in the moments they confront discomfort with support, not in moments they are shielded from it. Building resilience begins with awareness. Teens often experience emotions more intensely than adults, a consequence of both neurological development and the existential pressures of adolescence. Fathers who acknowledge the intensity of these emotions rather than dismissing them validate the teenager's lived experience. Yalom highlights the importance of acknowledgement in therapy. When a person's feelings are recognized and named, they gain clarity, which reduces the sense of chaos and helplessness. In the context of parenting, this means creating a space where teens can express frustration, sadness, or fear without judgment. Simply listening, reflecting, and accepting the teen's emotional reality fosters self-understanding, which is the cornerstone of resilience. Another essential element is the cultivation of coping strategies. Adolescents need guidance in identifying constructive ways to manage stress and adversity. This goes beyond follow the rules or don't act out. It involves teaching skills such as reflection, emotional labeling, and problem solving. For instance, a father might encourage journaling, open conversation, or physical activity as means to process complex emotions. Drawing on psychodynamic principles, fathers can help teens recognize patterns in their emotional responses, understanding how past experiences shape reactions to present challenges. Yalom's therapeutic philosophy supports this reflective approach, emphasizing that self-awareness enables intentional action rather than reactive behavior. By equipping teenagers with these tools, fathers foster independence and confidence, allowing the adolescent to face difficulties with greater composure. Equally important is modeling emotional resilience. Teens learn not only from instruction, but also from observation. Fathers who navigate their own anxieties with transparency, integrity, and composure provide a living example of how to respond to life's uncertainties. Yalom often speaks of the therapeutic power of modeling courage in the face of existential concerns, and the same principle applies in parenting. Demonstrating openness to vulnerability, willingness to confront fear, and patience in problem-solving teaches teens that emotional strength is not about suppression or perfection, but about engagement with life as it is. Moreover, resilience is cultivated through the father's consistent presence. Teens must feel supported even when they stumble or make mistakes. Punishment alone, without explanation or empathy, can instill fear rather than growth, reinforcing avoidance rather than adaptation. Yalom notes that the presence of an empathetic witness in therapy, the one who sees without judgment, is transformative, allowing the individual to integrate experience without distortion. Fathers who embody this presence create a secure emotional environment where teens can experiment, fail, and learn, fostering resilience that is internalized rather than imposed externally. It is also vital to help teens understand the relationship between challenges and personal growth. Life is inherently unpredictable, and adversity is inevitable. Fathers who guide their teens to see difficulty as an opportunity rather than a threat instill a mindset that embraces growth, encouraging reflection on setbacks, framing mistakes as learning experiences, and discussing how emotions signal deeper needs are all strategies rooted in existential and psychoanalytic psychology. This approach empowers teens to approach life with curiosity, self-compassion, and confidence rather than fear or avoidance. In conclusion, building emotional resilience in teenagers requires more than punishment or rewards. It demands understanding, reflection, and consistent presence. Fathers who engage with their children's emotional experiences, model adaptive responses, and foster opportunities for growth enable their teens to confront life's challenges with skill, insight, and courage. As Yalom reminds us, facing anxiety and discomfort directly with awareness and support is the path to authentic growth. Fathers who embrace this philosophy provide the framework for adolescents not only to survive the turbulence of adolescence, but to emerge stronger, wiser, and more fully engaged with the world around them. Adolescence is a period of upheaval, a storm of emotions, identity exploration, and existential questioning. In the midst of this turbulence, fathers have an unparalleled opportunity to act as anchors, stable, empathetic presences that provide reassurance without controlling or dictating. Too often, fathers underestimate the power of simply being present. They may focus on teaching, instructing, or enforcing rules, overlooking that their mere presence, attentive, consistent, and non-judgmental, can profoundly shape the teenager's emotional and psychological development. Irvin Yalom, in The Gift of Therapy, emphasizes that presence is therapeutic, being fully attentive to another person, witnessing their experience, and providing an empathetic frame creates the conditions for growth. Applied to parenting, this principle becomes transformative. Presence is not passive. It requires awareness, patience, and intention. Fathers must observe, listen, and attune themselves to the subtle shifts in their teenagers' behavior, mood, and needs. This attentiveness communicates safety, trust, and validation, even when words are minimal or absent. For instance, a father who notices a teen's withdrawal from social interactions or subtle changes in mood and responds with curiosity rather than criticism signals that the adolescent's inner world is seen and respected. In doing so, the father becomes a stabilizing force, capable of reducing the anxiety and confusion that characterize this developmental stage. Yalom frequently notes that being present, without judgment or agenda, is one of the most potent tools for facilitating change and understanding. The emotional storms of adolescence often feel overwhelming, both for the teen and for the parent. Fathers may feel frustrated, helpless, or unsure of how to respond to sudden outbursts, sarcasm, or mood swings. Yet it is precisely in these moments that presence is most powerful. Maintaining calm, empathetic engagement during conflict conveys to the teen that emotional upheaval is manageable, that relationships can endure tension, and that vulnerability does not equal rejection. This creates a foundation of security that allows the adolescent to explore emotions, identity, and autonomy more confidently. Fathers who embody presence teach not through words alone, but through consistent demonstration of steadiness, empathy, and respect. Furthermore, presence facilitates dialogue and mutual understanding. Teens are more likely to express themselves authentically when they feel safe, not pressured or judged. By providing a secure emotional base, fathers encourage openness, honesty, and reflection. Psychologist Daniel Siegel's work on interpersonal neurobiology supports this. Secure, attuned relationships foster neural integration, emotional regulation, and psychological resilience. Fathers who consistently show up as attuned, empathic figures help teens navigate the complexities of adolescence with greater clarity and confidence. Presence also helps counteract the existential anxieties that often emerge during adolescence. Teens grapple with questions of meaning, identity, and mortality, which can feel isolating and confusing. Yalom emphasizes that awareness of existential concerns can trigger both fear and growth. A father's attentive presence provides reassurance, modeling that these questions are natural, manageable, and shared. Simply being available, physically and emotionally, signals to the teen that they are not alone in facing life's uncertainties. The practical application of presence can be simple yet profound. Sharing a meal without distractions, engaging in a conversation about feelings rather than performance, or sitting together in silence when words fail. These moments, while seemingly mundane, communicate to the adolescent that they are valued, understood, and supported. Over time, consistent presence builds trust, strengthens attachment, and nurtures emotional maturity. Fathers who commit to presence help their teenagers internalize a sense of security, which becomes a foundation for navigating challenges, forming healthy relationships, and developing self-confidence. In conclusion, the power of presence cannot be overstated. Fathers who serve as anchors in the storm of adolescence provide stability, empathy, and reassurance that support their teens' growth and resilience. By observing, listening, and responding with consistent, non-judgmental attention, fathers create a secure environment in which teens can explore identity, confront fears, and develop emotional strength. As Yalom asserts, simply being present is a transformative act, fostering connection, awareness, and personal growth. Fathers who embrace this role become not only guides, but companions on their teenagers' journey toward self-discovery, equipping them with the tools to navigate life's complexities with confidence and authenticity. As fathers navigate the complex journey of adolescence with their teenagers, the ultimate goal extends beyond managing behavior or enforcing rules. It is about fostering a full mind, a state of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and psychological resilience. Achieving this requires integrating understanding, communication, emotional guidance, and presence into a cohesive approach that supports the teen's growth while nurturing a deep father-child connection. Drawing from Irvin Yalom's Existential Psychology, the journey toward a full mind involves confronting life's uncertainties, exploring meaning, and embracing the responsibility of freedom. Principles that are as vital to teenagers as they are to adults. A full mind begins with awareness. Teenagers must learn to recognize their thoughts, emotions, and existential concerns, and fathers play a critical role in facilitating this process. Yalom emphasizes in Existential Psychotherapy that awareness of one's own mortality, freedom, isolation, and search for meaning is not paralyzing. It is empowering when accompanied by reflection and support. Fathers who encourage introspection through conversation, shared experiences, or guided reflection help teens develop the capacity to observe themselves without judgment. This self-observation is foundational for decision-making, emotional regulation, and authentic engagement with the world. Communication and empathy remain central to this process. A teenager's voice is shaped by validation and understanding, not by criticism alone. Fathers who actively listen, reflect, and respond empathetically teach essential skills, expressing feelings, negotiating conflicts, and integrating experience into a coherent self-narrative. Yalom frequently stresses that human growth occurs in the space between self-awareness and relational connection. By attending to this interplay, fathers model how to navigate the internal world while maintaining meaningful bonds with others. Through this relational dynamic, teens learn that their thoughts and feelings matter, and that they can explore their identity safely and constructively. Emotional resilience continues to be a cornerstone of a full mind. Adolescents must encounter challenges, fears, and disappointments to cultivate the strength and flexibility necessary for adulthood. Fathers who support these experiences without overprotecting, judging, or controlling their teen foster an environment in which mistakes become learning opportunities and adversity becomes a catalyst for growth. Yalom's therapeutic philosophy underscores the value of facing anxiety directly, suggesting that resilience is not the absence of fear, but the ability to engage with it consciously. By demonstrating this courage and patience, fathers equip teens with tools to navigate the uncertainties of life thoughtfully and confidently. Equally important is the cultivation of autonomy. A full mind is not one that is obedient or compliant, but one that exercises critical thinking, self-reflection, and personal responsibility. Fathers who guide without imposing, who provide structure without constraining exploration, help teens develop independence grounded in insight and ethical awareness. This approach aligns with Erikson's concept of identity formation. Adolescents emerge from this stage not simply as rule followers, but as self-aware, autonomous individuals capable of making meaningful choices and forming authentic relationships. Presence, as explored in the previous topic, continues to underpin all aspects of achieving a full mind. A father's consistent engagement provides a secure base from which the teen can explore thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This stability fosters psychological safety, enabling the adolescent to confront existential questions, experiment with identity, and embrace growth without fear of abandonment or rejection. Yalom emphasizes that growth flourishes when one is witnessed and supported, and the father's presence serves as both witness and guide, affirming the teen's journey toward awareness. Finally, achieving a full mind is a collaborative process. It is not a destination imposed from the outside, but a shared journey in which father and teen engage with life's complexities together. Fathers who integrate understanding, empathy, presence, and guidance create a dynamic environment in which teens develop the capacity for introspection, resilience, and authentic engagement with the world. Yalom reminds us that meaningful growth arises from connection. We are not merely solitary beings. We develop and flourish through authentic engagement with others. By embracing this principle, fathers help their teenagers cultivate minds that are not only full, but flexible, reflective, and capable of navigating life with wisdom and courage. In conclusion, guiding a teenager toward a full mind is a profound act of presence, empathy, and insight. Fathers who engage with their children through understanding, communication, emotional guidance, and unwavering presence enable teens to confront life's challenges consciously and develop into self-aware, resilient, and authentic individuals. The journey toward a full mind is ongoing, shaped by experience, reflection, and relational support. As Yalom emphasizes, growth occurs in the intersection of self-awareness and connection. Fathers who embrace this path empower their teenagers not only to survive adolescence, but to thrive, cultivating psychological richness that will endure throughout life. If this video helped you understand the hidden depths of your teenager's mind, hit like and subscribe to stay connected. Share your experiences in the comments. What has surprised you most about your teen's inner world? Turn on notifications so you never miss insights that can transform your relationship and guide your teen towards self-awareness, resilience, and growth. Together, we can uncover the truths nobody ever told us about raising mindful, empowered